In this video, we're going to be looking at a new command in Teragon version 0.52 called merge heightmaps by image. That is this command right here. There are multiple commands with a similar name, so make sure that you do have the correct command if you want to try this. Merge heightmaps by image allows you to merge multiple heightmaps using a mask to determine which part of each heightmap is used. This can be used to combine different heightmaps and different locations on the map in order to get different effects. The default preset World Generator 5 uses this to give different types of terrain for each biome. This video is going to show you two different examples of using this command. These examples are very basic. They're just to let you see how it can be used. But when you use it yourself, you're probably going to want something a little bit more detailed than what these examples show. In this first example, I have a mask set up that you see right here. It has a white square in the middle, surrounded by a black border. If you look down here, this section at the bottom is where you set up the different heightmaps that you're going to merge together. The comment can be anything you want, but it helps to have it be something that makes sense to you so you know what you're looking at. The color is the hex code that determines which part of the mask is being used for that heightmap. In this example, white, which uses the hex code number sign followed by 6 Fs, and black, which is a number sign followed by 6 zeros. In this example, I made a flat heightmap already. I called it DTM flat. So that's what I have in here. And I have a mountains heightmap that I have called DTM Mountains. These are already created. To save time, when you do this yourself, you will have to create these heightmaps before trying to use this command. So in this example, the flat heightmap is set to color white. So everywhere in white is going to be flat. And the mountains is set to black, so everything in black will be mountains. These heightmaps I made are very simple. I have a flat heightmap that has no terrain effects at all, and I have a mountains heightmap that has a lot of mountains on it. The way this is set up, once these heightmaps are merged together, you will have mountains around the outside and a flat map in the inside. Now, I've already run this command so that you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to go to 2D preview. And as you can see, I now have mountains around the outside and a flat map in the middle. Now my mountain map did have water on it, and so that's why you also have that here. That is all depending on what you have for a height map when you make it. So as you can see, there are definitely two different height maps being used here. One with a lot of mountains and lakes along the outside, and then just a plain flat height map on the inside. As I said, you're probably not going to want to do something this simple, but it gives you a very clear view of how that works. So in this command, to use this, you're going to have a height map name. Normally you can leave that alone. You have a file name for your mask. In this case, I've got it set up as worldpath/mask.png. That will give me a mask map that is located in my map folder. Rotation and mirroring I have set up just like you would if you're importing a mask normally. You can see on the side here that it tells you what to set it up with. And then rotation for height map and mirroring normally can be left alone, but you can take and adjust that if needed. Blur strength is going to be how much blurring is done on the edges of the two height maps where they transition together. So if you look in here, this area where it's transitioning between the two, there's some blurring done in order to make it not so sharp of a change if the two height maps have different elevations at the transition. If you think that the transition is still too sharp and you want to blur it more, you can increase that blurring amount. If you think that it's too much, you can decrease it. And then as we went over before, the bottom section is going to be a comment that just tells you what map you're using. That can be anything you want and doesn't have any impact on how your command will work. Color is the hex code for your mask map for each part of the mask map that you use. In this example, since I'm only using 2 different height maps, I did black and white. You can use different colors if you want, and you just need to make sure you put the right color code in there for that to work. In the default preset World Generator 5, it uses the biome map as a mask map, and so the colors are the colors for each biome. And then layer is going to be the file name for your height map on each one. These should be in the same folder that you're creating your map in. So if you created them in a different folder, make sure you move them over to the folder that matches where you're merging them before you begin. The second example we're going to show has a mask map that has the word river written in it using a cursive font. Another very basic example. I'm going to use this to create a river made out of the word river. So to do this, I'd set up the same way as the other one. My river map and my normal map. The normal map is your normal height map that you might make, and the river is a flat height map. I have the flat height map elevation set low enough so that it cuts down into the rest of the map when they're merged together so that it can be filled with water. So after merging these together, we look at it here, and you have my normal height map for everywhere else, but the word river from the mask is cut down into the terrain and is filled with water because my flat water map is higher than the elevation of where that river is cut into the terrain. You probably won't want to be writing words across your map like this, but it shows you how you can create things like rivers, lakes. You can do mountains wherever you might want mountains. It all depends on how you have this set up. You can do masks however you want, and you can use a lot of different height maps to merge together. Keep in mind that the more height maps you have, the longer it will take to merge those together. And be sure that you do have all of your height maps and your mask created before you try using this command. One thing you want to be aware of when merging height maps is what you see here in the help text. You don't want to use a mask that uses too small of an area. In this example, it talks about using the biome map as a mask and using diffuse biomes, which creates very small dots around the map where the biomes transition. Very small areas like that aren't going to merge very well because the terrain is not going to be able to change that quickly. So it's recommended that you don't use small areas in your mask or very fine detail. Try to stick to larger parts in your mask. Even in this example with the word river, if you look at this example here, you lose some of the detail just in that word river. And river is a pretty good size area in here. When I made this example, I created the maps ahead of time using different presets and then have a separate preset that I merged them together in. That's why this preset is very basic. However, you can create them all in the same preset and then merge them in the same preset if you want to. Just make sure that you are exporting your height maps before you use this merge command. You can't use the command until the maps are exported. It doesn't use the maps that are currently in memory. The same with the mask map. If you have any questions or need any help with this or anything else with Teragon, please check out the chat and help channel on Teragon's Discord, and someone will be able to help you.